Hello there, my name is Anthony Barocas with AIBA Communications, and today I want to talk to you about packing for a job. I put a picture of my kit for a regular series that I do, which includes a rolling laptop case, a second laptop case which is smaller, and a tripod bag. And today I wanted to go through what all is in that case. Once again, my name is Anthony Barocas with AIBA Communications and Frisco Studios, and today I wanted to go through my kit. Now, this is a specific kit for a specific type of job. Now, I do a monthly panel event where there's a moderator, there's a table with 4, 6 people who are all talking about a subject. There might be slides, usually there aren't. There's an audience of 100 to 200 people, and this is the event I record. I don't stream it, I record it every single month. There's another one that I do quarterly, but this is the event that I'm packed for the most part. And this was the kit that I took a picture of. People are like, wow, how do you get all your stuff into such a small package? So this is not the kit that works for everybody. I don't pretend to say, this is the kit, this is what everybody needs. This is not what everybody needs. This is what I need for this one event. When I do a different event, I do a different kit. I actually have a bunch of different variables even within this one kit. So with that, let's get started. I have 2 cameras here. I have this camera right here. That's my overhead camera. And I have the camera I'm talking to you, which is in the iPad. So, and I have a microphone and a light, and let's see how this comes together. So, this is my first bag. This is, turn it around, this is a Targus bag, and I had made a strap that goes around that would, the other handle of the larger case would go through, but that didn't work out so well, and this bag doesn't have that built in. So maybe newer versions of this would, but this one doesn't. This one's been around a while, and you can see I've labeled up things, so if I have somebody assisting me with setup, I can say get the mixer, get the Wi-Fi, get the the iPad, and that's where everything is. So like that, in here this folds open, it doesn't fold out. This is where the iPad is. Let's pull this out for a second. This is actually pretty slick. This is the 12-inch iPad, and this is a Zugu case. I wanted to get a case specifically that let me recline my iPad. So when I open this, now I have a series of ridges here, and this is magnetized, so I can set it to the exact angle, because this is my control surface. Sometimes I want it lower, and it'll actually extend pretty low, or pretty high, and it's magnetized, so it really does, it doesn't fall out, it stays in there. And so this way I can have it at the angle that I want for this type of thing, and then I usually have my keyboard right in front of me, and that works out to be very well, especially if you're going back and forth between people talking. I can just hit the space bar back, now that we've got the AB switch, which I love. And that works out really well for this type of setup. I have another keyboard, it's a little bigger and backlit. That works out well. This is my backup keyboard, but it's actually the keyboard I'm using right now, so that I can switch back and forth between the camera that's built into the iPad and the overhead camera. So back to the overhead. So this is this case. I will put links to everything in the description. And it closes up like that, protects it. It's got a bumper all the way around it, and that obviously that magnetized foot. So that's really cool with that. And then, of course, I usually bring a backup, and very often the backup would be this iPad, which is an iPad Air 1. And it runs Switcher Studio quite well, and it's great to have a backup just in case, for whatever reason, the main iPad decides to whatever. Never know. But we've all had computers fail, and computing devices and iPhones and whatever fail. So going out on a job when you cannot do it over, and you can't ask everybody there to come again later, and you need to have the backup like right there. So that's why I always bring 2. Back to the case. And now, so that is the iPad section. let us go to the Wi-Fi section. Open up the Wi-Fi pocket, and in here is my Google Wi-Fi hub, which has been very reliable for working in director's mode, and power supply, Ethernet cable, and a 25-foot extension cord, black. Then I've got this little Lowell plate, which is great for mounting a light to a wall or something. It's got a little screw head hole here, and I got Velcro on here so that I can put my Google Wi-Fi up on the top of a tripod, just like that. And it's just Velcro. Takes up no extra space. And then also in here, I have a Verizon MiFi little hotspot that I can use to provide 2.4 and 5 gig Wi-Fi between a handful of devices. I probably wouldn't try to do the same as this. And it's great for getting the job done, pulling back your resources, but getting it done when something would go wrong with that. And then I got some Ethernet cables, and that's all that's in here. I did have a second Wi-Fi I was going to try out, or I could put another one of my small bags in here, but you know, that's what's in the Wi-Fi pocket. Then you come back up here. This is the mixer pocket. Now this is the center of the case, so this one actually opens that way. So we're going to spin it around. In the mixer pocket is the Behringer 1202 USB that I mention all the time, and I post a link to because I don't just, you know, promote it, I use it. It's got 4 XLR inputs, 4 line inputs with compressors on all 4 of those. And then you've got a 3-band EQ, an aux send pan, and then your main levels. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stereo inputs. You've got a tape input. You've got control room outs. You've got main outs. You've got headphone outs, and you've got recording outs. And you've got, most importantly, USB out. So if I want to record in stereo, which is what I did last time, I'll show you the stereo mic in a moment. I put the stereo mic in here so I can get stereo from the room, which is panned left and right. And then the wireless mics came in on this one, which is, what is that? 5, 6, 7, 7 and 8. So you bring it in here on the mono side, and then you just bring it up here, and it comes in the middle. And that way I can have house and direct microphone, and then I can bring it up and down depending upon, you know, somebody's talking really quietly, I can bump it up. Somebody's talking really loud, I can bring it down. So I have control over the levels of what's going on. I have a set of earbuds in here that go with an adapter into the headphones. I could plug it into the iPad if I want. The downside of this mixer, even though it's so small and very flat, which is super awesome, is this big power brick that comes with it. It's big, it's heavy, it's a transformer. It's not a switching power supply. So it's a big heavy lump of metal. And then as a backup, I've got the iRig 2, which takes in a line input. Again, specifically for this event, I know they have a certain type of mixer at the facility that I can get a 1/4-inch input line out. So this is my backup for this. Or I might bring something else depending upon another job. Line input, and then the headphone, you can either listen to the line going in or the headphone out of the iPad. And then there's a small gain dial over here, so I can still kind of vary it depending upon loud or quiet, but I have no amplification. There's no battery in here or anything. This is just a very light, compact backup. And that's what's in the mixer pocket. And then there's an outer pocket here, like I was saying. So I bring this long RCA cable with 1/4-inch adapters on the end. I have a backup RCA cable, and I have this in here now. This is a Sony stereo mic on a little tripod that I have adapted to dual XLRs. So I've got XLR at left and right coming out of this little stereo mic, so I get a nice stereo ambience to the room as opposed to everything just being boring mono. And that is what's in this big mixing bag here. It's a little heavy, but it's very durable. It's a Targus bag. I've had it, I've probably had this thing about 10 years, and it just takes a licking. So great bag. Now, I have a bunch of other bags. These are Bubbum bags. I linked to these. I'll have a link in the description. These are Bubbum bags. They're available in black, blue, red or pink, which I may get just so I can color code things. But if I have a bunch of black bags, which I do, the easy way to tell what's going on when you're going real quick is I label the handles with some tape. And so let's go overhead. This is the iographer and cams. And then if you open this up, I have a little bag here. I have the iographer with a macro lens on here, power cable, and a big battery. This works with the big lens, which comes in a separate bag. And this big lens lets me zoom in from the back of the room and get a shot of the whole stage from across the whole room, mounts on a good Bogan tripod, and adapts down to something that screws into here. And this is where it mounts on the tripod, right here in the middle. And the cell phone just hangs off the end. It's very light. It's inconsequential. And that's how this whole kit works. Now, there's a little bit of extra room in this bag. So what I've done is I've got this little ThinkPad case, which actually at one point held a laptop drive, but it's perfect for carrying a bunch of SEs. So I generally have 4 SEs. One of them is up there. So there's only 3 in here now, and they are without cases because they are going to be used in another piece. So that fits nicely in here, and it zippers shut. Next, we have let's go with the motor bag. Now, if you're not familiar, the Galileo motor is a tiny little powered pan tilt head. This is it. This is the whole thing. It has an accessory pocket, screws right into the top of a tripod. It takes power in. The battery is built in. The motors are built in. This top part rotates here, and then this part actually flips up and then does tilt. And when you tilt it up like that, it wakes up, and you put the camera right in here, or you can use an adapter if you want to. I have adapters with lens adapters on them, so I could do that too. And the magic is they just fold up so very small. I can imagine that these work so beautifully with Switcher Studio that Switcher Studio could buy up the IP, recontact the people that made these things, and make them again, because they would make the perfect accessory for your Switcher Studio kit. Anyway, so I carry 1, 2, 3 here, and then I have 2 more in another kit, so I carry 5 with me. There's also wide angle and telephoto lenses in here, and adapters for iPhone 6 and SE, and that is my motor kit. Over here next, we have the piece de resistance, the bracket. You know, in case you forgot, my name is Anthony Barocas, and I work with Dominic Campagnon in England, and I had this idea. I wanted to carry 2 motors and a battery up in front of the audience, up close to the stage, so that I could get all these different shots of the panel events, but I needed something to be very discreet. Mount on top of a tripod, hold these 2 brackets, hold these 2 motors and a battery, and not take up a lot of space. And thus was created the bracket. So let's take a look at that. The bracket case is also kind of like the case I put all the extra mounts and stuff in here. So right here, Dominic at Stream, I have 2 motors, 1 and 2, mounted to 2 L brackets with these dovetails on them. And then over here, I have the cables, all the cables come together. And then I have this piece, which mounts on top of the tripod with this hole, just kind of like sits over top. You spin it, there's a 1/4-20 thread in here. And the battery, I just leave this connected, but the battery has dovetails too that can come off. And then what I do is I take my little, that one, and this one, I wire it all up, and it only looks like that. There's nothing to it, you know, and it's all, I got 2 cameras in pan tilt heads, and the power for all 4 devices, both pan tilt heads, both cameras, are all 4 power outputs right here. And this thing, I've run this thing for about an hour and a half, all 4 devices powered from here, and this didn't even go down one of the 4 tick marks. So I easily could do 6 hours or more. Completely autonomous, powered up there. And then The added advantage is there's a shoe in here. You could slide something else. There's we've got extra dovetails you can put in the front. You could have something in the front like that. Or I'm even thinking like maybe taking this and extending it a little bit and making a foot on the outside so you can put something out there too. You know, it's really, there's a lot of possibilities with this. And then I have the two camera holders like that. I have all the cables, the short cables specifically for this with right angles and stuff. And then I have all these extra little cool adapters that I just put into the case. And that's the bracket. Now, I also have this case. Again, it's a bubbum case. This is kind of a catch-all. This is the accessory case. It has two sides, so we'll go with the non-labeled side first. This is the battery side, which I've also, it's got all the cables in here. It has two batteries over here, and these are set up so that if I'm powering another motor, I have two cables, an Android and an iPhone cable, because each of these batteries has two outputs. So it'll power both the motor head and the phone from this one battery, which is great. And they are, that one needs to be charged up a little bit. Both sitting in here. And then in the middle, I have both an iPhone 6 and an iPhone 5S, which is sort of like one of my audience cameras or something like that. Has a nice rubber gasket around it, which I lay gently in here, and they protect each other, and they sit in this pocket. And then flip it over. On this side, I have Lightning to USB, USB to Ethernet for two different devices. Plan on getting more. I also have an HDMI out. I have a VGA out. I have a USB to Ethernet for a PC. I have an MHL dongle, which takes the micro USB on the bottom of a Android cell phone and gives me a USB that I can do anything with, even like write to a flash media. I have a flash media reader. I have a USB 3 hub, which is actually a great little anchor piece. It's very lightweight. It's USB 3, so it's plenty of speed. And it takes a micro USB for power, which means if you've got one of these multiple output batteries, one output can go into the USB adapter, one output goes into the hub, and you're powering anything plugged into the hub. That's pretty slick. And I don't have to bring an extra special, AC adapter. I just run it all off of batteries. I've got a little dual USB output here. I've got just other accessories over there that aren't relevant to the job, but just handy in case something happens. So that's all the cases that I carry in the rolling laptop case. The last thing to show you is the tripod bag. The tripod bag is sort of a catch-all. And the reason I say this is because the bag itself doesn't carry the tripod that it came with. And this is I got an e-image tripod. I reviewed this for streaming media. That review is online. And then I liked it so much I bought it. And inside this bag is a bunch of other things. So here, first of all, is a Bogan tripod, very sturdy, durable, and it's got the big plate that holds the big lens. That's what sits in the back of the room. Very durable, and it's taking things apart on my table. Then I've got a Lowell light stand that goes really high, which is perfect for putting the Google Wi-Fi up in the air. That's what that's for. And then we have this little Smatry monopod. It's got this little foot that opens up on the bottom, and this is where all the weight is. This whole thing is very light, and it has this unique feature in that it gets smaller and lighter as it goes up. So this is bigger than the top section, which is actually quite small. You can't see it too well, but that's actually pretty neat. As opposed to putting the bigger, heavier part at the top, it puts the thinner part at the top. So that's actually pretty cool. And then this usually holds a camera pointed at the audience, and I tuck it underneath the podium, and because it's black and the camera is in black, nobody even sees it. And then I've got this other little tripod that I can put anywhere because it actually is a three-legged thing. And this has the stability that I can put the motor head on here with a camera and have it move and everything, as opposed to a monopod might wobble around a little bit. This thing doesn't because it's a genuine tripod. And then also I have some Wi-Fi antennas in here, which I was going to use with the test access point. These are, I think, 12 dB of gain, 2.4 and 5 gigs, Ruba Wireless, AP Ant 86D, if you want to look them up. And that's it. I got a little rag in here to keep things from rattling around, nothing like showing up from the client, and it all sounds like clatter, clatter, clatter. So the little towel in here helps keep things a little quieter. And that zips up, and this goes over my shoulder, while everything else just rolls in on one arm. So I got over my shoulder, I got one arm, and I got one hand opening the door. So that's all good and well. And the key thing is, it's not, like I said, this is a kit that I've put together kind of purpose-built for this job. No one kit serves all purposes, and no one setup is like the perfect setup. I like this setup for this type of job because I have flexibility to handle different things that go on. Like, oh, well, we're going to have media playback from the laptop today. Oh, okay, well, let me run another cable and run that into my mixer because I've got that flexibility. If I'm going to do a different type of event, I tweak this out. I do it differently. I have a bigger case that I normally bring. I can carry more things in it. And I don't want anyone to say, well, this is the perfect kit that I need. It's not the perfect kit. These are just the tools that I need. I hope maybe some of this has been useful. You found something in here that you think could help you in what you're doing. And realistically, give me feedback. Tell me what you think, or if you have recommendations of something that I can improve in my kit. I'm welcome to hearing feedback because I've refined this over the course of time, and I look to refining it even further, replacing the Google Wi-Fi with something that is better, that gives me more reliability so that I can actually record a good live stream as opposed to using director mode and then rebuilding it later because of potential dropouts during the actual production. Things like that. And it's a dialogue. Let me know what you think. Hope this helped. Once again, my name is Anthony Barocas from AIBA Communications. I want to say thanks for watching.